friends, welcome to our channel. Now in this video, I will give you some short brief summary of this chapter, that is 3 questions in English. तो आप मेरे इस वीडियो के एंड तक मेरे साथ बने रहिएगा। आपको बहुत अच्छे से पैराग्राफ समझ में आ जाएंगे और आप इससे रिलेटेड कोई भी क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर सकते हैं। तो स्टार्ट करते हैं। Firstly, I have to give you some introduction about this chapter. So you just listen to me carefully. In this chapter, there was a king who believed that he would never fail if he knew the answers to his 3 questions. To find the answers, the king sent messengers throughout the kingdom with a guaranteed reward, which was a large sum of money. However, the wise men who came forward were unable to answer his questions correctly. So this was all about the summary or some brief about this lesson. Now I will be explaining you a paragraphs. So first paragraph, in this paragraph we get to know about the king and the thought which came to his mind. One day he got an idea. He thought that he would never fail in his life. And as the king of the kingdom, if he would know 3 things. These 3 things were the answers of the 3 questions which came to his mind. The first question was, what is the right time to begin something? The king wanted to know when he should begin to do some work. Here, he wanted to know a particular time or way by which he would be able to do his work on time. Now the second question was, which people should he listen to? Here the king wanted to know who is the most important person or who should he listen to or pay attention to. Last but not least, the third question was, what is the most important thing for him to do? This question means that he wanted to know which task or which aspect or part of his work is the most important one. Here, he wanted to know which task should be given more attention than the others. The king therefore sent messengers. In this paragraph, we get to know the first thing the king did to get the answers to his 3 questions. He sent messengers spreading the king's word that he wanted to know the answers to his 3 questions and that the king promised that the correct person would get a reward, a large amount of money. According to this statement, many wise men, all those who could answer the king's questions, came to meet the king. However, they all answered differently, dissimilarly. The king got 2 to 3 answers for each question. Now, in reply to the first question, in this paragraph, the different answers of the wise man are being told. Some said that the king should prepare a timetable in which each and every task will be covered and followed diligently. Only by making a timetable would he be able to do everything at its correct time. However, others answered that no one could decide the right time to do something in advance. To do so, a person has to be observant. The king should observe or notice all that was going on in his kingdom and in his affairs and decide accordingly. The king should always take a step which seems to be the most important step of all. The king should be active, energetic, and present-minded. For this, the king should avoid unnecessary or pointless pleasures, enjoyment, or satisfaction. However, there was a third answer too. Some people said that the king needed a council of wise men who would help him act at a proper time. According to them, it was impossible for a single to decide correctly. The king would need help and guidance, which he would get from the council. But then others said that there were some things which could be urgent. These things could not wait for the decision of the council. In order to decide the right time for doing something, it is necessary to look into the future. And only magicians could do that. The king, therefore, would have to go to magicians. Now, in this paragraph, we get to know that there was a fourth answer to the first question. What is the right time to begin something? The fourth answer was that there were some things which were more urgent than the others. These things required speed and good use of time. On the other hand, the decision-making council's process was a bit slow or time-consuming for such emergency matters. In order to decide the right time to begin some task, the king would have to look into the future. And who could do that? The answer is magicians. So only magicians could look into the future. Hence, the king would have to go and get help from the magicians. Now, next paragraph. In their answers to the second question up to necessary. In this paragraph, we get to know about the various answers to the second questions. Let's remember the second question. What was the second question? The second question was, which people should the king listen to? So, according to the first answer to the question, the king should listen to the council of ministers, the councillors. Others said that the king should listen to priests, the holy men. A few wise men choose doctors as the people of the king should listen to. The fourth answer was soldiers, those who fight and are willing to give up their lives to die for the king and kingdom. Now, next paragraph to the third question up to worship. In this paragraph, we get to know about the various answers to the third question. Let's remember the third question. The second question was what is the most important thing for the king to do? So there were three answers to this question. First was the science, the development of the kingdom, the invention of the new innovative things for the benefit of the kingdom and its people. Second was fighting for the kingdom and its citizens, whereas the third answer was religious worship, staying linked with God. Next paragraph, as the answers to his questions up to wisdom. In this paragraph, we get to know how troubled the king was with the answers of the wise man. The answers were many and they were all different from one another. Since the answers were so different, he was unable to declare which answer was correct and which was not. This made him greatly dissatisfied, unhappy. So now what he wanted? He wanted the advice of a single wise person. And who was that wise person? The hermit, who was popular for his wisdom. Therefore, the king decided to go and search for the hermit and ask him the three questions and their answers. Alright, I hope you understand till now. Now, next paragraph, the hermit up to alone. In this paragraph, here we get to know more about the hermit and what all the king did to get ready to meet the hermit. The hermit lived in a small forest and he never left the place. The hermit saw only innocent, straightforward people. So the king also dressed plainly so that he would also look like a simple person. But why did the king do so? The king do so because the hermit never met anyone except the simple people. So if the king would not look like a simple person, the hermit would not meet the king. Then before the king who was riding a horse and was with his bodyguard reached the hermit's hut. What did he do? He left his horse and bodyguard behind and went on alone. Why did he do such a thing? The king did so because the hermit met only a few people. So if he, yani ki the king, would have gone to meet him along with his horse and bodyguard, the hermit would not allow him to inside his hut and it would have ruined his simple image. Now, next paragraph. As the king came nearer up to heavily. In this paragraph, when the king reached the hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. When he saw the king, he just greeted him, but he didn't leave his work. He kept on digging the ground. During this time, what did the king notice about the hermit? He noticed that the hermit was old and weak. He was not healthy enough to do the digging work. As he worked, he breathed heavily, meaning he was very tired. Now, next. The king went up to important. The hermit listened to the king but did not speak. He went on digging. You are tired, said the king. Let me take the spade and work in your place. Now, what he said? Thanks, said the hermit, giving the king his spade. Then he sat down on the ground. The hermit listened up to place. Now, the hermit listened to the king and his questions. However, instead of replying or giving answers, he went on digging. As we read earlier, the king noticed how old and weak the hermit was and how difficult this task was for him. The king felt sorry for the hermit. That is why the king decided to do the digging for the hermit. The hermit thanked the king for his kindness and gave him the spade. Then he sat down on the ground and relaxed. When the king had dug 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his questions. Now, in this paragraph, after the king had finished digging 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his questions, hoping that the hermit would reply. He had done a lot of work for the hermit, and so he felt like he would surely get his answers. However, the hermit did not answer. Instead, he stood up and asked for his spade and stretched out his hand for the tool. The hermit would not pay any attention to the king's question. He seemed to be busy in his work for it. Now, what comes next? In the last paragraph, we learn that the king didn't give back the spade to the hermit. He continued digging. Furthermore, in this paragraph, we learn that the king kept on digging for 2 hours. 1 hour passed, then another, meaning that 2 hours passed. The sun went down behind the trees, meaning that the sun had set. It was evening. After digging for 2 hours, he became furious and finally he pushed the spade into the ground and said that he had come to the hermit, who is being referred to as a wise man here, for the answer to his 3 questions, and that if the hermit cannot give them due to any reason, the hermit can just say so and the king would go just back to his home. So instead of replying to the king about the 3 questions, he changed the topic and pointed towards the person who was running towards them. Now, this was the first part of the story. We'll continue the second part of the story in the next video. So if you like our video, please like my video, subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon so that you will get notification whenever I will be uploaded the video next. So please share with your friends also. Thank you.